Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rafaela. I'm the editorial coordinator here at Architecture Hunter. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're very excited to begin another session of our monthly webinar series. And for those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. We host webinars every month, always free and open to the public, and each edition focuses on a different topic. The topic for today is City as Canvas, Urban Landscapes. We'll explore how architecture, landscape, and public space come together to shape the urban experience, from large-scale strategies to the subtle details that define how we move, gather, and live in the city. We're happy to share that today's session is presented by Arcos. Arcos exists to build a new generation of places rooted in positive impact. Their work is driven by a conscious approach to urbanism, one that understands the desires, needs, and limitations of spaces, nature, people, and culture. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that one of the main goals of these webinars is to connect our audience with our speakers. So please don't forget to send in your questions using the Q&A tab. After today's presentation, we'll have a live Q&A moderated by a journalist, Daniela Silva. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Deborah Saunt, founding director of the Architecture, Landscape, and Research Studio, DSDHA. Deborah's practice works across scales, from buildings and welcoming landscapes to entire neighborhoods, always blurring the boundaries between infrastructure, architecture, landscape, and art. Their work is deeply rooted in dialogue, engaging communities and collaborators to create spaces that have a meaningful, long-lasting impact. So please join me in welcoming Deborah.
Hi there.
Hi.
Well, thank you for asking me to come and talk about the city as canvas and urban landscapes. I'm Deborah Saunt from DSDHA, and I'm an architect who has become a landscape and public realm expert. And I was brought up with this kind of tradition of people like Le Corbusier and this whole idea of the international movement and images like this of Paris, tabula rasa, completely recast by a new way of doing things. And as a young architect, I went to see famous buildings like this Goldfinger building here in London. And when I got there, I was really disappointed because on the ground, all of this monumentality, beauty, this kind of freedom and natural daylight was all for people was kind of surrendered to chaos. And I also studied people like Alison and Peter Smithson here in London, who were famous for this project in the centre of town called the Economist Plaza. And they even joked about how they could bring these kind of new systems to our existing cities. This is a Christmas card they made. But in reality, it was part of a mindset to kind of recast, here we see in London, what a future city might be. Let's segregate the uses. Let's create very distinct boundaries. Let's put in new transport. And so today I'm going to just show you what London's like. In terms of the work we're doing as a canvas, you can see this red mark here over on the left. I don't know if you can see my cursor, where I'm going to take you through some projects in an area of London I've been working on in Camden, but also in the city of London, that sort of big black circle here, a very medieval part of the city, which fought hard against some of the modernity that was being brought in. Because what we find across London are these really strange, I mean, there's only one way to call it really, it's kind of shit space where, new ideas have come in and kind of cleared parks, but left hangovers of old architectures and really made places that are kind of non-places. And within that, we have been doing a lot of work on what we call spatial justice. How can we bring a coherence to the city where there has been this kind of disjuncture? And what is going on in terms of the way that we share our city? Because it doesn't feel just at all times. So there's a famous philosopher, theorist called Audre Lorde, who said the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. So if we want to change things, we have to think differently. So spatial justice, it explores the ways for the city to facilitate justice through space for everyone. And it's a kind of emerging discipline. It can be something like looking at how our past has been represented. Do we want that as a just representation the way it was? In the future, are we going to think about, what really will happen with things like the climate crisis? And on a more day-to-day level, why do we still have in the modern city things like this, where people can't use trains, and where even more critically, because of pollution in the way that we travel with cars, people like Ella Kissy Deborah, she died in London because of air pollution, the first person to have that recorded. So you find this intersection of the climate crisis, the cost of living, people living in poor accommodation, social justice, health inequality, really affecting the city. So we are trying to change it. We're trying to take places like this, which were based again on a different kind of segregation of movement and people. And we're redistributing people in London from a place where they lived all over the country. These were poor people. They have no say where they're put afterwards. And we're kind of destroying communities when we go about that. So what is this spatial justice that could lie at the intersection? And our work has been inquiring about that. Primarily through my role at the London School of Architecture. Please do come. It's an amazing new School of Architecture, which I helped found 10 years ago. And we do look at critical issues affecting the city today. So things like, for example, one of our recent reports was into policing. What happens in a city post-policing? What happens if we question the rules that currently dictate how police and security services design our spaces and tell us that we can't have traditional streets without surveillance, we can't have alleyways and quiet spaces, really looking at whether actually natural surveillance, more community-led initiatives can design out crime and that you can design in community. So that work has led to a report that our studio was funded to do, a research project called Towards Spatial Justice. And we look at the stages through the process of where architects, clients, and the city come together. And we look at the different stages where we can have co-creation of the brief, co-production of, thinking about what are the principles going to be, designing together, delivering together, and then looking at how we can kind of improve and manage and run things into the future. And we have a website, come to it afterwards. I'm sure you can see this on YouTube, called Co-Designing Space Towards Spatial Justice, which is a great kind of toolkit for people if they want to come back to that. And there's also that QR code if that helps too. So DSDHA is a values-led practice, increasingly rare in these kind of economically led times. And we're transdisciplinary, so we do urban, we do architecture, we do research. And so as transdisciplinary designers, we work across a regenerative design framework where we're looking to co-evolve with nature, create a just space for people, and be a good ancestor. And so being a good ancestor, it means that we're advocates for climate resilience, for net carbon, but also in the way that we run our own studio, we look to disseminate our work, have equitable arrangements within the practice and, try to be as low carbon as possible. Again, within co-evolving for nature within the studio, we support local biodiversity, we have a garden, and we look at nature as well as bringing it into our projects and encouraging our clients to co-evolve too. And as a just space for people, we embed co-design in our work, look at social value all of the way and an ethical sourcing and supply chains. And as well, we do that in the way that we try to have our employment practices too. And altogether, this is a framework we then use with our clients and on their projects. And it's extraordinary how well people are responding to this new intersectional approach to design because the world is incredibly complex. So going through some of that complexity on the ground to show you what we do, here we have those projects in Camden on the left, and then also some on the right in the city. These are not all of our projects in London, but they kind of show a continuity of that canvas that we're looking at today. So coming from the top of that drawing, we're going to go right next to the railway stations, places around the world traditionally associated with poverty, pollution, and that kind of spatial injustice that we've been talking about. So the area in red is an area we won a competition to master plan just over 10 years ago. And when we went, it was a typical modernist kind of landscape of green space, leftover chairs, a kind of lack of overlooking. And because it was poor, it had a lot of immigrants, a lot of big families, had more children than most of the local area. It had an incredible diversity of wonderful people. And I had the privilege of getting to know these women and their children through the local schools to find out what it was like to actually work there and to be there on the ground. And we asked people what was their favorite thing to do in that area. And nature, no surprise there, really was the number one thing. There are other areas like playgrounds or outdoor gyms or even the pub and some new developments nearby. But nature is the number one favorite thing for people typically where they live. It has a really strong youth population. So we're very aware that when we have a project that lasts for 10, 15 years, people who are under 15 are going to be adults by the time we finish it and we need to talk to them. More of the spaces, this is the school on the right, kind of really enclosed, everything with barriers and fences, very defensive architecture. More defense as we see here between two types of playground. Uh, and what we do is when we go to a site, we look at how people move through the site, that's the blue lines, but also where they're looking, that's the green cones of vision. And what we find here is there were two pieces of space to the east and the west, but there was this very narrow kind of alleyway between the two. And some more alleyways up here, and then these kind of stranded buildings within it. It's a very residential area, and the idea was to really look at how we could make a much greater place where the greenery and nature serve the purposes of the community better, where we could build more housing and rebuild the school, and really make this an accessible part of the city for everybody. So looking here, you can see that subdivision in the school in the middle. And our simple aim was to make one united landscape. So we pushed the school back. It was going to be rebuilt. And we kind of redistributed the green between east and west and making this one continuous landscape where we had housing on the left here overlooking the space to make it feel safe, as well as a play facility for the community. And then more housing with overlooking here on the right. And then a tower on the very very right, sorry, a kind of sentinel to look over the whole development. But because we're in neoliberal times, that is the development that pays for the space on the ground. And we didn't lose a single square meter of green space. We actually increased it through this project. And this allows fantastic movement for people as they go through the site. So these early sketches were about how could the new architecture of this canvas we were creating, this landscape-led public realm, be described by the architecture that was along its kind of edge as a ribbon. And here you can see the ribbon of development. So we were the master planners for 4 other architects to do the buildings, and we've been in charge of the master plan and of the landscape. And it's being delivered now, and you'll see some of it. So what we can see is this was the idea of a kinetic experience here from west to east, an architecture that worked together, that had difference, but created this continuous ribbon of new development set within a park. From above, you can see here, this is the foreground. This is the most westerly part, going across over towards this is St. Pancras Station, where the Eurostar comes in from Paris and from Europe, and here's the tower. And then here we have all of the affordable housing, and then we also have the British Library and the Crick Life Sciences Research Institute here. So it's a place of kind of globally important, nationally important buildings hitting a local community. So coming in from that global network of St. Pancras, we come under the tower, where we pushed the tower's architecture to the smallest possible footprint to allow the best possible views to frame an introduction to the new landscape. We come in, a new landscape of lyrical rolling hills allows people to relax, children to play, and hopefully scientists to come and meet young people. New housing, affordable, placed alongside local amenities. Coming across the street, you can see the new bright architecture of the school. Then the links taking you along to pull back and see the landscape of the new courtyards within the school and the landscape up against it, and a new entrance to the school here on the left. And then this continues, this active frontage, as we carry on over to the west, where we have the play facility, the community facilities, and the new housing too. So the architects are Adam Khan, Nick Hayhurst, Morris and Company, and DRMM working with DSDHA. But this has happened over the last 10 years. And about a year ago, we were asked to do perhaps the final piece in the jigsaw next to that tower, a youth area. So if you imagine, these were the young children in that photograph that we met back in 2014. And here they are now as teenagers, working with Edit Collective, who we brought on board, to see if we could find out what they want from public space as young people in London today. So co-design process, teaching them about public space, visiting spaces, making spaces with chairs to understand design principles, and then working with them to create this fantastic new youth space. It's not dominated by a basketball court. It's a place for conversation and lyrical kind of landscape coming together with conviviality. And the young people, they created the curves and language of the brick benches that define the space. They buried secret messages within the brickwork and made these fantastic bespoke bricks. And they were the ones who said, for example, if we're having a park, we really want a swing. So very much written by and for the people in this space. That project continues, but another one that we've done just to the south is the West End project, working from the area of the big railways right the way down to places like Shaftesbury Avenue and Tottenham Court Road and Oxford Street. There it is in the centre of the city, an enormous 2 kilometre long section. And we can see it's taking in quite a few blocks east-west as well. We were asked to look at whether we could take a very 1960s piece of highways planning, these big one-way streets, redistribute the traffic, make active travel, people walking, cycling much more important, and add as many new spaces, public spaces, as we could. So we managed to find at least 5. So if you're in London, you can come and see those. To begin with as well, we use our technique of 100 conversations to go out and ask people where their journeys are taking them, why are they in the city, what's the purpose of their journey, and really getting under the skin and discovering hidden constituencies, like there's a big hospital there that wasn't mentioned in the brief. And so that hidden brief comes from talking to people. So this was the beautiful road when we just started our engagement. Thunderous, single direction of traffic going very, very fast. And you had to be very brave to use this street, quite honestly. And some beautiful architecture in the background that you couldn't really see. But as you stood further back along the street, you could see this fantastic listed building. It's called Centre Point. It's like the centre of London, guiding you through. But we wanted to try and reveal the kind of hidden qualities and return it to what had been a beautiful street in Victorian times. So we kind of sketched, really, what could it be to go down this street, not going the other way, but actually go in 2 directions and create new visual anchors. And here it is today. We've reduced the amount of traffic, we've increased the amount of greenery, and we've done things like put sort of shops with awnings on the east side of the street, so the sun as it sets warms that larger piece of pavement, and you can have cafes spilling out onto the street. And a really, really wonderful sense of vitality. And businesses are up, communities are happy. And areas like this, quiet backwaters dominated by just traffic and tarmac, we dreamt of them being wonderful green spaces. We couldn't believe that the local people would let us do this, but they did. And this was it just when it was finished a couple of years ago, cycling through. You can really sense that idea that nature can be retrofitted into the city. That movement, lyricism, joy, play, places where people can meet and community can happen, can really start to happen if you think big and really hold on tight to your principles. And what's interesting is politicians, of course, love it, but local businesses too. It helps people find their sort of sense of making it worth coming into the city after the pandemic. Nearby too, the British Library I just mentioned, we were called in after these projects by the local authorities. The politicians and the planners were saying some big projects need more vitality. So working with RSHP, the architects here, on extending this very large building here, the National British Library, extending it into this large area. And there's our project here that we just mentioned up at Somerstown. How can we extend a building and put in a huge amount of accommodation right next to these places where people live, whilst not making them feel segregated from this national institution? Again, we talked to people. We found out that this library was this huge, as you can see in the middle. Well, here we are, a great big kind of rock, and not allowing east-west movement through the site. So we knew that this site was important for people to feel they could come through the site. At the time, there was a garden, a community garden, temporary on the site, which was much loved when we talked to people locally during COVID and after. Really important, these little green spaces in the housing and in the space where the building would be. And we were given these plans by the architect, very, very organized. It's a complex building, a very complicated brief with lots of areas to balance. But really, as you can see here, this is the west where the housing is and the station is on the right, that you're really not seeing this as a place for people just yet, even if you cover it in small dots that indicate they might walk through it. So our brief was public space architects. How do we lift up, look under this building and create a navigable route through and around this building that links St Pancras on the left to the people and their homes on the right? And to do that, we looked at the brief. We said to the client, what is it that you expect this to do as a space? And they said, oh, well, there's just public realm. We'll have some galleries, some events. And we said, well, over time, why don't we look at how we can actually dissolve your building into the landscape, into the public realm, work with local sciences in the life science building nearby, and bring learning out into the real and virtual world. And by the end, we had this fantastic brief, really, really looking at co-design, bringing in commuters, bringing in local people, and letting the community really own this building as much as anybody else. So it started our collaboration with the architects, looking at these very kind of simple screen grabs, starting to draw over it to gently suggest that maybe allowing more sun on the site. Maybe let's even just move the building. Here is their plan. You can see it sort of sits directly in between the two roads and has a little bit of green both sides. We said, why don't you just push it right over to the east, and we make some magnificent gardens to the west. So it's really for community and for people. And you can see we softened the architecture. It's a much more human approach than previously. Its landscape is still not quite designed, because despite getting planning permission for this large building, and yes, lots of people, it's those children in the image again that we think about. This is not going to be finished for at least another 7 or 8 years. So we've set up a social compact, a kind of constitution, where the developer, the library, has to work with all these communities in a hub and spoke method. So from the hub of the library, money and talent and landscape is sent into the local community, where people learn to own and develop and nurture their own nature. And when they come back, these young people will be the people using those green spaces and designing those spaces. That's my colleague Shirin here, working with clay dug up on the site with local children, knowing that they're going to come back and do great things. And this is the community garden, which we got reinstated on the site, pushing the library away for something that nurtures the local people. And of course, that will be designed by the community too. On your way through the city, you'll find in the centre of London lots of learning. So we've been called upon to try and humanise some of those post-war spaces. You can see here in orange a huge territory of learning, full of nature in the trees, but not on the ground. How could we make the University of London a real hidden gem, sing much more in this part of the city as part of a whole green corridor we can bring down from Hampstead Heath? It was traffic dominated. It was inhospitable. I mean, poor people in wheelchairs having to go over speed bumps to go into these courtyards of a very beautiful building at Senate House. A fantastic client said, yes, let's have a placemaking strategy to open this up. So we took a space like here in the East Courtyard of the Senate House, and very quick wins. We've just resurfaced it, and now we're bringing in furniture. We've moved the cars out and the deliveries, and people, their pets, their families, their bicycles come in. On the other side, the warm southwest facing side, they had tried at the university to build a kind of monument to come in, use our space with this rather lumpen amphitheatre, but it actually acted as a barrier for people to go in. So again, we just took everything out, keep it really simple, open it up, and actually let people enjoy the architecture. This is now used all day and all night, and lots of new friendships are happening. You can see it happening in the space. This is what university is about. It's about the future. There will be plants coming in too as well. This is going to be flooded with nature. Just a site photo from work in progress. And then finally, I'm going to just whiz through 2 projects in the city. We were asked to look at a modernist project. You can see here circled in red, a kind of campus for working, a commercial campus called Broadgate. And quite honestly, when we went there, we said we were in a competition, and we were very honest, and we said it's not the kind of place we want to go. It had these sort of monumental spaces that were kind of filled in the evening, but really, like this one called The Circle, you'd go in on a summer's afternoon and it was hideous. It was just full of vertical drinking, as they call it, crowds of men in suit, very few women, quite a hostile bear pit within this amphitheatre. But during a normal daytime in winter or spring, here I am with some students. We're just looking at this deserted, very beautiful, expensive space, but it's not got life of the city. So we asked, client, can you give us your CCTV footage? We'd like to see how people are actually moving through this space. And I said, yeah, sure. we'll see what you can do. And what we do on all of our projects is this kind of detailed mapping. So here you can see the flows of people through this space at different times of day, and you can see where people are gathering in the purple pink area for the drinking. And you can see that this is a really important route to get to the station, which is on the right of the image, because this development is built on and around Liverpool Street Station, a bit like when you go to Grand Central, there are towers above it, very similar in New York. And from this, we could see that there was a lot of movement through the space, but there was slightly too much movement. So people were flowing through or meeting in a crowd, and then you could sit on the edge, but you felt very self-conscious because people didn't have your back. You know, people would come behind you. Unless you were with somebody, you felt very exposed. So we simply created congestion, really learning from delirious New York. How do you make a space that you can congregate in, where you can feel safe, bringing in nature, enjoying the fact that this space gets quite warm in summer with Mediterranean planting and kind of rock-like formations, which uses proxemics, which is the study of the spaces that people like to be in when they're on their own or in small groups. So you can see people alone or together distributing themselves. And what is extraordinary is throughout the year, many more women come to this space as well as children. And what it's also proved to be is a place, because it was very cheap, and we believe in kind of meanwhile uses and tactical urbanism. This is us moving the plants around. We can actually reprogram this space according to demand. So this is where we think public space should be going to, much more adaptable, responsive, and something that you can retrofit and test before you spend lots of money. Again, we tested this very bleak, almost Baltic space, Finsbury Avenue Square. Architecture, public art, and some benches. It really wasn't the most enjoyable space. We came in, built pop-ups very quickly, and these are not posed people. They, you know, simply using these very simple spaces. But what really impressed us was what was happening on social media. Little did we know that out of hours when we weren't there were people using these spaces for the gym. Young women were coming to have picnics in the evening with pizza. And younger people were coming in and posting on Instagram about fashion and again about sport. So it became a place of influencers. And it's a real testament to the idea that spaces take on a life of their own and the canvas becomes alive through the action of people. So the client, having spent not very much money on those three interventions, the 3 or 4 interventions that we did, then said, let's go for the gold standard in public space reinvention. And it's called Exchange Square, and it's directly above the railway station. So here it was about 5 or 6 years ago. It was built in the 1980s. This is a Bunshaft building here by SOM, and on the left is the railway station. So the trains are below us. You can see the monoculture of the campus, and you can really see the sort of monoculture of people. They're not very many people, and they're all white. And they're all, well, not all white, but, you know, they're all from a sort of a pretty monocultural kind of background. And lots of hard materials. You can see the red stone. And when you came into the space from the other direction, the red stone basically told you to go away. You came to the water feature, more stones, very aggressive, very masculine, despite the beautiful sculpture nearby. Not a place you wanted to hang out in. So we reconceptualized it. What about we take this place of movement and slow it down with a very lyrical landscape line? And about that, we gather different activities because good public space needs different activities. The greenery gathers around, flowing people between those spaces without any steps, all level access now for everybody. And we come together in a unified vision of a new shared and diverse landscape, hovering over the tracks with different character areas for different people wanting to do different things at different times of the day, like a real park. So there is the plan. You can see the undercroft of the building that's to the north. It flows down and through, and then it is visible down on those train platforms. So we had to build this with trains running below. And now it's just a fantastic success. It is packed with people, and it's not just office workers. They're gathering in the shade, in the sun. They are coming for lunch. They're finding different spaces that suit their mood. And it's really becoming a much greater sort of natural resource in the city. And again, who are these new visitors? We crossed our fingers for them to turn up, and they did. The young, the parents, and even at iftar, we have the fantastic gathering of the local communities invited in to celebrate the breaking of the fast here in our public space. And just to conclude, in the 2 minutes I have left, I'm going to show you something that's on site. Obviously, the City of London is ancient. It goes back to pre-Roman times, but it has the biggest building programme and the most young people in the UK. So here's a tower. We were asked to come in and sort of improve on the public realm and landscape here. We have the elevated privately owned public spaces in the city, and we had to see how we could link a narrative across several levels to bring this as a genuinely public piece of space. So at the centre of our site, I don't know if you can see that, is a 12th century church that has been held in space, excavated underneath. We've taken out lots of the Roman Forum that was nearby, lots of excavations. It's been held in place, and we're putting back Fenchurch as it was. Yes, there was a fen, which is a kind of marsh. There was the church. We can see where the water was in Roman times and how it influenced the location. We can go to the fantastic work of the 19th century, looking at how you can have a biosphere across different heights. How can we create down on the fen levels a new fen, at the mid levels a new woodland and a grotto, and above different green spaces. So with that fen, we can look at those characteristics, bring those characteristics around a church at ground level that had lost its relationship with nature. And here we can see how we will create a fen with water and greenery, allow movement through the site, bring in biodiversity, let different activities happen, protect it from different pressures such as terrorism on public spaces, but also let people flow around the site, use bicycles, etc. So here it is from above, a very simple fenland. And I'm going to now just finish by taking you on a journey through a new animated landscape that's really ambitious in bringing history together with nature, with security and safety, lots of different uses, a wonderful chance to go into a 12th century church and find out about early Christianity here, and also about the nature of wetlands that we have in our water landscapes. And then take us up into this fantastic internal winter garden, a grotto full of wonder and delight. And we'll have some of the hidden treasures from the archaeology that we've excavated from below on show here, so that you'll really understand the long history of the City of London and of this area itself, using water, using plants, and using this extraordinary sculpted interior architecture and landscape. And because we are transdisciplinary, we can produce work like this confidently. And then take you outside to the most fantastic views, a wonderful place to sit, to have lunch. It's open from dawn to dusk. It's a free public space. So it's a place that's open for everybody. It's got soul, it's got a kind of duration to it. And I think that's me done. Thank you very much. I'll stop sharing.
Deborah, thank you so much for such a great presentation. Really an array of powerful projects. And well, to begin this conversation, I would like to ask you, since DSDHA often frames the city as a living adaptive system, how do you approach urban landscapes as places that are constantly evolving?
Oh, it's a very good question. I think we definitely look at the city as an ecology, and we look at we're very influenced by a lovely philosopher. I don't know if you know him, Stuart Brand.
Mm-hmm.
He was the writer of well, he's written so many books, but he's the author of the concept of the long now. And so he asks us to look through lenses of time. There's the very fast pace of fashion and commerce that we look at now. Then there's governments and policies that come and go. Then there are infrastructures and cultures that take longer to build. And then deep beneath it is nature. So he taught us to slow down and look, first of all, at the natural history of a site, It's amazing how many people don't actually say, what is this site beneath this tarmac? Let me look and see. What does the land want to be, or what's it going to be in a few years? So we take this kind of layered. We have a very strong methodology, so we're very analytical. So we use a lot of mapping and data, as you could see from our mapping.
Absolutely.
And then also, I suppose, we don't have the fixation of most architects of their finished product has to be protected. We love evolution. We love change. To not change is death. Nothing, change is being alive. If you do nothing, you die. And we believe in that conceptually. With projects, with our clients, that you don't just build a project and walk away. We keep in touch with our clients, with our communities, and we design these processes that live after the project. So on the last project that you've just seen, again, there's a whole network built up with local communities to come in so that they feel connected to it. So it's very complicated, but it looks simple.
You made it look like simple. And following that idea, as you were saying, your studio integrates research deeply into your practice. And it was very clear during your presentation that you go really deep. And I would like to know, how does research allow you to understand and transform urban environments differently?
Well, I suppose what's great is we all live in our own bubble. And a lot of architects are very proud of their bubble, and designers, and that and quite understandably, they do great work. But maybe what we all need to do is to question our own preconceptions constantly. The world is changing so fast. When I was young, there was a thing called Betamax, and then there was something called VHS, and then there was something called CDs. And then, now we have streaming, and then we have different forms of streaming, and we have YouTube, etc. So things are changing very, very quickly. And so you have to constantly learn. So we always say that we learn something new every day. And our research is a way of keeping us learning, but it also helps our clients to keep learning, and our communities, because we all come with this kind of backpack of knowledge. And if you use, so do, for example, the 100 conversations that we have is brilliant, because you will discover stories about an area you have known all your life, and somebody will tell you something new, and you're like, and so you build that into the brief and try to make it work for as many different people as possible. And the way that you do the design is you don't say that one space will suit everybody. That is the death of design, because what you try to do is build in diversity in your design. So that's why I said in the park space that I showed, it had spaces for groups, for individuals, for somebody happy, for somebody who doesn't like sunshine, somebody neurodiverse, somebody extrovert, young, old. So we kind of design to the extremes. So we very much design for young and old people as our base, and then we let diversity in between take shape. So yeah, research is king, and the best thing is to take the client with you, and then they pay you, because it is expensive to do research. So
Yeah.
it's important.
Yeah, and unfortunately.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I would like to move on to some questions from the community, from the audience that is following us. What would be the impact of increasing the density in British cities as called for by some planning institutions on spatial justice?
That's a really good question. Yeah, we have a lot of people, as all cities do have around the world, and we have a kind of level of density which is nothing compared to Paris. Paris is the densest city in Europe, and it does it brilliantly. It really modulates, and it's very, very highly controlled, disciplined space, and that's why French clients come to Paris, from Paris to London, because they can build big here. They can't do that so easily in Paris. For example, we have a French client. What's happened in London is we really embrace density, but we have to do it with good quality public space and good quality landscape. If you don't have the public realm, you do create problems for the future. So you have to make sure that the public realm and the ground plane can be as active as possible. And you can retrofit this. The good news is you can retrofit that activity into the city. So I showed a picture of the City of London, very, very dense. And this would apply, this is mainly commercial, but there are some residential areas there too. As long as you make sure the ground floor plane is active and inclusive and not like those images I showed at the beginning, you can have tremendous densities. And I think New York is a great example. You don't really go around New York with its density thinking, oh my God, I can't get to open space. There's the river, the rivers rather, there are parks, there are pocket parks. Similarly here, we know that a lot of that 1960s architecture I showed you, the Le Corbusian model, it is not actually that dense. It has a lot of dead space around it. So actually you can rebuild those areas with more density in between the towers and make more meaningful public spaces. If you have just the green space that doesn't have any differentiation, nobody owns it. So it becomes really bad space. It's better to have less space that's a higher quality, in my opinion.
Amazing. That makes sense. Thank you. And the last question, and then unfortunately we need to wrap up. Can you please share some indicative figures of how much economic value is to be generated for each pound of public money to be invested in the projects that you described?
Oh, there are metrics in, again, New York's very good. We do have some in the UK. Immediately, they know that businesses where you spend a pound on improving the public realm, your rentals go up about 5%, for example. That doesn't sound very much, but it is over a compound period when you consider how much architecture costs and how much landscape costs. But the most compelling evidence I have is the park that we created in Exchange Square. So we couldn't believe it that we had started on those projects, the little temporary projects. They were very cheap, but our client spent several millions on the new landscape. And we were like, how does this stack up? Before they had the landscape, they used to charge their client the rental £1 per square foot per year on the outdoor space. Now they can, because people love the green space and they want to be near the green space, they pay £5 for the outdoor space. So the address has a higher service charge, which is 5 times what it used to be for the landscape part of it than it had before. So when they did that, they were redeveloping the building behind the Bundschaft SOM building. That was completely refurbished and was fully occupied before the landscape was finished because of the park. And the uplift on the value on that one building paid for the park. Now they're doing the buildings on both other sides. So it really pays to see that kind of, that people want the address of nature now. It's really, if you think people are not prepared to sit in front of computers all day. Yeah, there is something that we're trying to do in terms of building up that metric. It's quite slippery because every project is unique, but I think that one in the City of London really shows that if you're trying to monetize public realm, it's being shown definitely to be worthwhile. And that was during COVID, where people were very worried about spending money. So.
And after COVID, people really needed public space back.
Yeah, really
Deborah,
did.
thank you so much for joining us today, for your amazing and powerful presentation, and especially for highlighting how cities can be reimagined through attention, research, and a renewed understanding of human experience. Thank you so much, and congratulations on your work.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Daniela, for guiding the conversation. And Deborah, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it. And next, it's time to introduce our second guest, Pedro Lira. He's the founding partner of Natureza Urbana. With academic experiences in Brazil, Italy, Spain, and currently teaching in the master's program in urbanism at IAC in Barcelona, Pedro brings a unique approach to ecology, climate change, and urban development. After building his career in Europe and later in Brazil, he co-founded Natureza Urbana, where he leads projects that range from territorial to building scale. Today, Natureza Urbana is based in São Paulo and works across all regions of Brazil, the Middle East, Africa, and Latin America. So please join me in welcoming Pedro, and remember to send in your questions during his presentation for the Q&A.
Thank you. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you Architecture Hunter for the invitation. Let me share my screen. So, so hopefully you guys see my screen, right?
Not now.
Oh, not now. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
So
We were seeing it before.
Oh, so I have to stop sharing and change. Just a second. Okay, so share the desktop. So can you see it now?
Yes. Perfect. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I selected some of our projects to show to you today, 4 projects. But I'm going to give a little introduction about what we do at Natureza Urbana. So we are a practice that not only works with landscape architecture, but we work from the territorial to the building scale. And we try to understand each context as a unique context, understand the elements that form each project to get to a result that is specific and meaningful for each situation. So we see each space where we work as an opportunity to regenerate ecosystems and generate new experiences and bring people to experience them. So we use the regenerative design methodology. We look then to the environment, looking for a sensitive approach, strategic planning, resilience, inclusiveness, sustainability, adaptability. And we look also for who are going to be our clients, who are going to be the users, who is the community that we are impacting with our designs, and how we can make the most positive impact of each project. Here in Natureza Urbana today, we are me and Manuela as founding partners, and we have a team about 30 architects. So our team today is a little bit over 30 people. And we have a lot of partners from other disciplines like engineering, environmental studies, economic studies, transport, and so on. We've been working in the globe. I mean, mainly we started in Brazil. We work a lot in Brazil, but we've been working in the Middle East, Africa, and other countries of Latin America. And what we like always to say, what bring us a lot of happiness is that we see that the kind of projects that we do, usually they have the power or the opportunity to impact a lot of people. So that brings us a lot of joy to see how something that we do can have such positive impact. And we have been specializing somehow in large-scale projects. They can be very different from a territorial planning like of the Iguaçu Falls National Park with over 3 million visitors, of our master plan for development of tourism and real estate situation, like in a nature destination. or open spaces, parks, squares, central areas that usually comes also with architecture. So we work in this range of services. So the first project I wanted to show you, it's total regeneration of a city center we have been doing here in Brazil, in the city of Maringá. It's a 500,000 inhabitant city. We won this national competition in 2018. And only now we see, we started work in 2019, and now it's under construction. Just to do a disclaimer, for coincidence, I selected 4 projects that are in Brazil, and we have a challenge as a developing country when we have public projects. We have always, I mean, it's a challenge to do public projects worldwide, but I think it's more challenging when you are in that developing countries, because I think you are more subjected to political impacts, like the political calendar, or changes that are motivated by the politicians, and also by a budget restriction. So just to understand those lenses, so you will be able to understand the challenges that we have in these projects I'm going to show. So we won this competition to redesign the city center of Maringá. It's a monumental axis, as they call, that comes from the cathedral to the Olympic Village. It's a 1.5 kilometer extension project from facade to facade. It's a planned city, but typical car city. So the city center lost its value along the time. Other neighborhoods started to grow. And the idea of the project was to regenerate the city center and brings life again from the cathedral to the Olympic Village, as I was saying. So the project was divided in different sections. Here's just for you to have on scale. In different situations, we have like a big square along the cathedral, then we have the city hall, then we have this part here, that's this street, this central avenue, that we are transforming into a rambla. And we have a square. This is the public transport terminal. Then we have other square. They're going to build a museum here, and then we get to the Olympic Village, where we work more on the sidewalks. So the idea is to transform and to make the space much more much more quality to people. We first started to understand how we could work from facade to facade, taking a look also at the quality of the facade. So we entered in such subjects as facade design, signage, how the commerce should publicize themselves to not overload the city center with a lot of information, how we could fit new ways of transportation, like a train, how we could bring bikes, how we could transform this Central Avenue in a kind of rambla. So the cars will be reduced to a smaller space, but still efficient. And the space will be much more for people. So we brought this solution of shared streets, where we have the cars, bikes, and this central rambla with a lot of public spaces, and generating situations where we have life through the whole day and night. The idea was to connect with the surroundings. So we try to understand what we have in the surroundings. Like we have a food market, where we could do an extension with restaurants, do a open air cinema, and have some little structures along the projects, like little kiosks to have cafe, information for tourists, and so on. And connecting also with nature and bringing some connectivity that I will show further with some natural parks that we have on the surroundings. So it's still ongoing, the construction. They started with the surroundings of the cathedral, transforming the surroundings where we used to have a very big car park. So we changed also the location of the car parks, bringing more like little pockets. I mean, we redesigned and we got a lot of efficiency to that, and leaving this space much more for people. So here we have some recent images of the construction, like the kiosks, public fountain. Still, the greenery is still to grow. It's very common here in Brazil in public projects that usually they will plant species with little size, and we need to wait some years to grow. So it's very common when you finish a project. Usually the public asks, oh, why do we don't have more trees? Yeah, in the project we had a lot of trees. We have hundreds of them. But you need to wait because usually the public client don't have the funds and the capacity to bring bigger species already grown, right? So we need to kind of wait for some years. This is the reality. So here are some other pictures of the construction. So the idea was to have some organic shapes made with concrete. We need to also to have some low-cost solutions and some independent kiosks and work with some slopes and some other kind of solutions to bring more life to the surroundings. So the second project is a project in Northeast Brazil, in the city of São Luís. Is a project that we did with the IDB. IDB is the Inter-American Development Bank. So they usually hire not only the architecture, urban design, and landscape, but the engineering project, the environmental, social. So we had to give an integral solution for the problem. And the problem was to regenerate a 2-kilometer coast front. Here we have like the sea. We don't have the beach here, but the sea enters, and we have some kind of lagoon. And the idea was to revitalize 2-kilometer stretch with some opportunities for bigger transformations, like this central park and bus terminal that it's the focus of the project, and with that also enhance the connections with the city center. So here we have the historical city center. This road is the border of the city center. It's a center that has hundreds of years, one of the most beautiful ones in Brazil, that had some French colonization. And this place was kind of abandoned. So this was the situation that we found. Buses and vans, they would kind of stop around here. And here it's a kind of slum that was formed along the years. People started to build barracks to live, to sell, mainly to sell products to the clients of the transport system, let's say. And the area became the most dangerous area of the city. So we had the challenge to transform not only the public space, but to give a social solution to this problem. So we had a social team that made questionnaires and tried to understand the situation. So we have child labor, prostitution, a lot of problems. And we had to give a social solution to the project and also to the to the commerce, like that, to build a correct solution for the future, and make able to the city hall. We had to make able the city hall to build like agreements with them to operate kiosks in the future and food bikes. That was one of solutions of the project. We also had to work and transform the mobility, understand and change the whole transport system and rethink about the bus terminal. So this is the solution that we came with for this central space. So we concentrated the bus station here in the left. We also redesigned this whole space, bringing a lot of different opportunities to activities that we thought about it like islands of experiences, like skate park, basketball court, escalade, ping pong table, fountain, little plantation, spaces just to stay, to talk, to people to be with each other. And then this would somehow go further to the surroundings. So how we did that, we started understanding the access points and understanding which pathways people usually would do, which axis of connections we should work with. And then we got to that idea of the islands of uses, and which ones we would have rooftops, slopes, how we could work with the topography to make the space more secure. City Hall wanted to put a fence in the beginning, and we convinced them not to do that, and to get to solutions that we would have a lot of connections and gathering points. So we have here the bus terminal. We have here gathering points. We have some monuments that we need to position to keep some spaces for cultural activities. Some other ones just to contemplate and stay, like little squares, the fountain, kids park, environmental space, places to play football or basketball, escalade, ping pong, as I said, skate. And so the idea was that we had different solutions, but with this same language as a base, and we would somehow position those islands to form this space. This was a result of a lot of community meetings that we did with the surroundings. Not only the actual occupants, right? The users of the terminal and the neighbors. So we would have users that would answer to their demands. So the space would get back to life when after construction, and that was what happened. The neighbors started also to paint their facades and use the spaces. A place that before had a lot of violence became a more used place. Here we had the same issue as I was saying before about the trees and the vegetation in general. We had a lot of greenery in the project, but City Hall wanted to reduce expenses during the construction, and they kind of planted like very little species that would take like years to grow. That's kind of sad, but that's our reality in Brazil. But we try to bring this life and colors to this place. So here it's a view from the bus terminal, other from the other side. Zoom. You see that when you go at a human scale, the quality of construction is not that good, and it's a problem that we have also here with public construction, as I was saying before. But the project had a good strategy, so it could survive this reality. That was the main strategy, that we could work in a large-scale project in our current situation and make the project to be alive, even with the limitations that we had. So here, at a human scale picture, we see the bus terminal at the end, ping pong tables. Yeah. Okay, so the third project is the main public space of this mountain city, 3 hours from São Paulo. It's Capivari, it's the name of the city. It's a mountain destination, receives over 6 million people each year. It has about 200,000 inhabitants. And we were invited by a private company that won a public-private partnership to transform this space. The space became not only the main public space of the city, but the most visited tourist attraction of the city. It received last year about 3.5 million people. So that was the situation in the past. The place was the remainings of train structure. We had the old train station that had become a museum, and today the train stops here in this other station that they built. So this was the warehouse, the place where they would put the other infrastructure of the train, the railway. And after the railway was stopped, they started to build a park. But along the years, the park just became a mix of little houses with little shops of souvenirs and so on. It lacked the connection with the center, where you have the church and most of the restaurants and a pedestrian route. But it had this interesting lake with some views to the mountain here in the back that I will show to you. But so that was the kind of situation. Just these little elements with shops, and it was not attractive. People wouldn't go. So this is a picture of the built park. So first, to kind of explain the strategy. So here's the museum that we were seeing before. So our strategy was to build the program, the architecture program, along the border of the park. We have a difference of codes of about 4 meters from here to here, and we wanted the buildings to help to save this difference of height. We also wanted to put the stage. We had this need to put a stage where the São Paulo Orchestra would play, and we would place the stage at the center and along the lake and with the mountains in the back. We also had to position a cable car that would connect with the top of the mountain and bring a strong connection with the city center. So we positioned the program along the border, as I was saying, making the square the central point and the stage as a central point, and trying to do the same in another scale with the top of the park. So here's a diagram where we see the border. So we were positioned like the commercial building that I will show to you. This is from the beginning of the project, but we mainly, the idea was to position the stage along the lake, a restaurant here, the cable car, and the visitor center, and a cafe and other commercial spots here. so we could build a situation that everyone would face the stage and the landscape. So here it's a plan. So you come from the center, you cross the street, and you have a ramp, or you can go down by the stairway, but you already see the stage at the center, or you go like along the shops that we form like places where you can always see what's going on the stage, and when you go down, you have the cable car, and here's the museum. So that's the image that you see when you get into the park. So the cable car at the end, the stage, the commercial building, let's say. So when we see like a section, so here the entrance, the commercial building, cable car at the end, and the stage located along the lake. And in the top of the mountain, we try to build a similar situation with the other cable car station and some little structure like little restaurants and bathroom and little shops that would also open space to a central square and to the views. So that's a bird eye view from the main square. So you come from the city center, you take you can go by ramp, and you just see the cafes and shops, and you go down. You see you go down, and you get to the cable car. Or you can just come to the central stage, and at the borders we try to put more greenery. We had to leave very open this central space because of the orchestra and the shows that they would have. We tried to somehow be inspired by these linear elements of the railway and the train, and bring a little bit of this experience to the project. So here it's an image of the commercial building integrated with the landscape. So this roof goes changing height and goes adapting to the code, like the land, right? So you come down from the church, you get to the center and so on, and you just move on. Another picture here in the other part. So we also worked with the signage, how the shops could somehow position and work like to everything to be. I mean, we did from landscape. I mean, we did from master planning, architecture, urban design, landscape, and signage. It was kind of a complete package. So here it's an image of the stage. In the stage, we work with prefab wood structural systems. We had a very good team for acoustics. So here the stage integrated with the landscape and the topography. You see, you go down, and we have like the main seats in front of the stage. And in the top, when you go to the top, you have the cable car station, you have other square here. And we have we have the cable car, and we have this alpine mountain that was an operation that we had also to fit. The client wanted to operate this alpine mountain. Okay, so the last project is the Doca Linear Park. Is a project that we just did in Belém. It's one of the capitals of the Amazon, the Brazilian Amazon, or in the Pará state. It's a project that was motivated by COP30. It's one of the main public interventions of COP. So the place of the project, it's what we call Igarapé. That it's a desviation of this main water element that we have here in the coast of Belém, and we had this Igarapé that would historically goes inside the city. And along the years, it was one of the commerce axis. Boats would go inside and stop and sell in the neighborhood. And along the years, it was transformed into a canal. So that was the situation that we encounter. And we didn't have the opportunity here to work from facade to facade, as in Maringá. We just had the opportunity to work in the restrictions of the canal. It had also some flood problems when it would rain. So the idea was to transform this public space and regenerate this space and somehow enhance the urban quality. And we got with this idea of build a public park over the canal. And also use this as a possibility to solve the flood problems. We have some pollution problems also, but for sure, I mean, the problem is not a canal, because the canal just receives the water and the pollution from the neighborhoods. So city hall and government, they are working in the surroundings in the sewage system that it's inefficient. But we had in the project some nature-based solutions. Unfortunately, some of them the client didn't implement it along the construction. We don't know because if it was because of some budget restriction or if it was because of the COP timeline that was very restricted. But it was a pity not to see some of the nature-based solutions, because the idea was to naturalize all the surroundings of the canal. I will show to you. So the project is a structure that overlaps what used to be only the canal, and with that we build a park that has some different situations, like playgrounds, sports spaces, little kiosks, bike lane, and like this situation where we have like this viewpoint where they have been installing some ephemeral structure to do concerts, and people can be just like here in the surroundings. I mean, it was inaugurated by the president like a month ago, kind of. And became suddenly one of the most important public spaces of the city. Just people just like flooded the space. We have a very big lack of public space. So what I was saying before, we had a 1.2 kilometer long park, and we also tried to understand the needs, and we were positioned along the projects, as I said, canopies, meeting spaces, rain gardens, outdoor gyms, kiosks, viewpoints, cultural spaces, and so on. So this is a night image of the park, and this is just after the raining, so it's kind of you see that's like wet, but it's when we came to we get to the end, and there is this structure that they had this big public feast, and it's called the Cerro, and it's a religious feast, and they had this culture that this part of the year and so on, that they also choose the park to do that. It's a very important date in the calendar, local calendar. So here we have the walkway, and we came to this place that we can have a stage and viewpoint. So here it's a more focused image. So you see that the border of the canal should be green. Our idea was to be like that project in South Korea where people go down and just walks here. But as I said, unfortunately, with the restrictions that we have in our local context, that was not possible. So here's a plan, and it's idea to have the continuity, the bike lanes, shades, canopies, kiosks, and so on. And so we kind of try to work. So here's a plan of the constructed structure. Then along the construction, they did a more similar solution. Instead of making the border of the canal green, they kind of came with these green islands to kind of help. It's not the same solution, but I mean, it's kind of some way to mitigate. Some other images of the park. We wish we had the opportunity to do. I mean, I think there is so many cities with similar situations where we could transform canals and parks, and we hope we had other opportunities to do similar projects. So here's a section, right? So the idea was to break and transform. I mean, we did transform the borders. But the idea was to make it green. So this was from the original project, that everything would be green and somehow would help to mitigate pollution and to do water filtration and remediation. But yeah, what we as I was saying in the beginning, we feel very happy that we just brought to life a park where you just you just had a canal, so suddenly you had a public space that the city never imagined, and that goes along a whole neighborhood with a lot of different opportunities to practice, spaces to be in the open air, to have experiences, and to bring this kind of solutions, right? Where you would just pass by with your car, and see that canal is a problem with flood problems, and now you have a park. So I think it's the power of transformation that we have in our profession. So thank you. Here's our contacts. If you guys want to contact us later, you can find our website, Instagram, email, and so on. So feel free to contact us. Thank you.
Hi, Pedro.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here and for your presentation. I think we can go straight to the audience questions. So one of the questions is, your work often operates in the balance between city and nature. How do you interpret this edge condition as a space for design?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, when we created the company, me and my partner, Manuela, we thought about the name Natureza Urbana. That would be urban nature, Natureza Urbana in Spanish. Um, um, for some reasons. One, that we wanted to connect people to the environment. Could be an urban or natural environment, but we wanted to make people understand and have great experiences, and we wanted to regenerate spaces. We wanted to bring people to natural spaces like national park, for example. So we wanted to do this connection between humans and nature. And it happens that we work a lot and some along this path, nature environment and urban environment. We work a lot in the nature environment, so private reserves for private clients like companies or families and so on. National parks, as I was saying, conservation projects to bring people to know these spaces. We work a lot on the urban environment, connecting people, regenerating these spaces, bringing nature, and we work a lot also in the borders of in the transition of nature and city. So we are doing, for example, this project that it's a belt of 15 urban parks between a megalopoly and this conservation area that is in the border of the city. That's a protected area. And we are building these 15 parks and cultural, social structure that you can do this transition, right? I love to say that we work in this transition between the natural and the urban environment. So somehow you help to protect the natural area because it's known that you need to know the area to conserve, to protect. You can't close like in a sacred place where no one can go because then someone jumps the fence and we will cut the trees and so on. I mean, people need to somehow live to conserve and also bring opportunities to the citizens that live in the borders. Yeah.
And that brings me to another question that the office Natureza Urbana has a strong portfolio in coastal and environmental regeneration. What do you think, what are the lessons from these territories that can be applied to broader urban contexts?
Yeah, it's curious because we have learned to work in such different situations. Like we have been working in the United Arab Emirates with a conservation entity, with WWF and Emirates Nature and the local government to protect areas, very specific culture, weather, climate. We had been doing some coastal planning over there. We are working in Africa with the World Bank in several projects in islands, protected areas also in Brazil, in a lot of them. And also in urban equipments where we need to tell the story and connect people with these places, even if it's in a total different situations. Like we are doing this museum in Asunción, the capital of Paraguay. That's going to be the tourist reception of Paraguay. And I think I mean what I could understand as like a path or a common element is the strategy, is the way that you get to these challenges and you build a vision how to understand these places, how to do like a immersion. You kind of have to do an investigation in the beginning to know the elements, the natural elements, the users, the potential, and how to do those connections, how to mix all that and come out with a project. So can be very different situations along the globe, but if you have a good methodology and a good way to approach the challenges, you come out with very good solutions.
Amazing. Thank you. And how does Natureza Urbana balances urban growth with preserving natural ecosystems in its projects?
Yeah, we usually are in projects that connect with our vision. We have a lot of greenwashing today nowadays, right? I mean, we just saw after. I mean, the company was born before the pandemic, so we already had this vision before the pandemics. But after the pandemics, we have a lot of like greenwashing, right? You have a like a real estate development that could be just any typical development with, or even worse, with a lot of impact, and you just come with a word like botanica, nature, and you think that okay, sustainable. No, so we think about from the beginning and from the strategy that the project needs really to connect with the environment, with people, needs to somehow enhance and help to regenerate the surroundings. We understand as architects that our profession tends to generate impact, because if you're going to build, you are generating impact, right? So, we believe a lot in retrofit. We believe a lot in bringing people to natural spaces that, okay, you need to have a visitor center or maybe an eco lodge, but it's an opportunity that you have to make people to leave that space and to protect that space also. So we try to connect ourselves to projects that and clients that are aligned with our vision. With can be tourism projects, can be real estate projects, but we do a lot of public projects, public-private partnership. Um, we 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 try to bring that on the essence of the project, and not just like a final layer of the cake that could be have more garden or have more greenery. No, it has to work from the essence of the project.
And talking about your project for COP30, what has been the biggest challenge in creating such a project that holds international significance, especially in tackling the climate crisis?
Yeah. So we had the opportunity to be very creative and to do something that would transform like the city and a neighborhood. Like, as I was saying before, you had a canal and now you have a park, right? So I think we have a lot of opportunities such as that. The main challenges, I think, were the timeline of the project. When you have a project associated with a big event, um, and I don't know, at least our experience. I mean, each country has its own challenge, but as I was saying before, in a developing country, we have more political challenge and budget challenges. So they are always there. So to see that some of the solutions of the project were not implemented, and to see some changes along the construction site and you were not there to help them, but the main strategy remains, the main concept and solutions remains. We need to do that when you work in a large scale project. But I think it's an opportunity. I mean, talking about climate crisis, to transform, to bring more greenery to the city, to bring more places where you can make people live them. Because in the last session you were talking about some KPIs, right? And there is this KPI that says that each dollar invested, dollar, euro, whatever, invested in a public park, in a public space, in a green space, you can save up to $3 invested in the health, like in a hospital, in the health structure of a city. So if you have more people in the open space and in nature, people will be more healthy, right? They will make sports. I mean, they will have a healthier life. And it's not only about being, I mean, to bring greenery to the city, but also to build new opportunities for people to leave the cities and have a healthier life. And sorry, and also in this place, in this project, we also had a very specific climate crisis element, that was the flood, that the canal was, I mean, had this flood problem, and we deal with that also in the technical solutions of the project.
And then for the last question is, how do you see nature-based urban design evolving in Brazilian cities post-pandemic?
Yeah, I think I mean, there is a lot of will and intentions to do nature positive projects, nature-based design projects. We have more opportunities usually to do that with more impact in public projects. And then there is the challenges that I already said. I mean, it can be Brazil, Latin America in general, Africa, I mean, developing countries mostly. But we see a will of the government and the Ministry of Environment. They have this program, Resilient Cities. So they are pushing the cities to do that. And I mean, you need some time, like to build new solutions, to form a team, like in government, and then to see the results. But I think we are starting to see, yeah, to see a good movement going on.
That's great. That's great. Always good to improve and see some evolution. Pedro, thank you so much for sharing
Thank
your
you.
work with the community and reminding us that cities and natural landscapes are connected and intertwined, and that architecture can also serve as a bridge between ecological responsibility and human aspiration. Thank you so much, and congratulations on your work.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
guys.
Pedro, for sharing your insights with us. And a big thank you once again also to Deborah for joining us earlier. It was inspiring to hear these different approaches to urban landscapes and how design can shape the way we experience our cities. And I'd like to thank Arcos again for presenting today's session. It's a pleasure to have them with us, supporting conversations that help shape the future of our cities. Arcos is committed to building a new generation of places guided by purpose, responsibility, and positive impact. Their work embraces conscious urbanism, creating environments that elevate everyday life and strengthen the relationship between people, nature, and the world around us. And before we close, just a quick reminder that next month we'll continue our webinar series with a brand new theme, which is Through the Lens, Capturing Space. We'll be joined by architectural photographer Emma Peters, so you definitely don't want to miss it. So thank you all for being here today, and we look forward to seeing you next month.